Hey everybody, video here for you today. Now before the end of the month, I hope to have an Ancient America video completed from every state. I only have about 5 or 6 more to go. Had some good messages from states I have not covered yet, but today we're going to cover New Jersey. Certainly never made a video on a New Jersey site. Had a few to choose from, but I found this one a few nights ago and I found this very interesting. This is the Rosenkrans Site down here, western New Jersey. Here's a site today along the Delaware River. We've talked about a lot of places that were right on these elbows of the river. This is called the Rosenkrans Site because there used to be a cable-controlled barge that used to take horse-drawn carriages over the river down here long time ago, obviously. But this site right here, burial ground of the Adena, maybe the easternmost Adena site we have in the United States here. This area, known as Wallpack Bend, has been known to relic collectors for a long time. There are villages around here, but this is a burial ground right here. The Adena people are the ones who they associate this to mostly, just because that fits. There are certain things that stick out and they have in common. But this area here, you notice right down here, this is on a rise a little bit. It's up above the river, about 40 feet compared to the local floodplain. And this was an ideal place for skeletal preservation. You notice right down here, there's a little rise here. So this place is about 40 feet above the floodplain and was protected from flooding. This place was first looked into in 1938 by a Dr. Dorothy Cross, and then a couple of years later, a Dr. Lewis Haggerty started making finds here. It's based on his collection that this article I'm going to share, it was rewritten because somebody thought it was very interesting. Here's the one PDF I found. I will leave the link below, but it's based on earlier research, but it says a Rosenkrans Adena site, Wallpack Bend, New Jersey. Here's a list of the people and the years they worked at the site. 1938 through 1950 is when most of the work was done here. Was some of this work kind of forgotten about? Well, it seems that way. But here it says radiocarbon data, the charcoal from burial number 9 came back 2,560 years old, so that fits in with the Adena culture as far as the timeline. It says the collection remains in the possession of Dr. Haggerty, but skeletal remains were shipped to the Smithsonian and to the SUNY in Buffalo. Here are some diagrams from the field notes of Dr. Haggerty, who was here about 80 years ago excavating. He has chicken coops documented here, and then where he found burials here. There was dog and wolf bones, cremated bones found with these burials, a bunch of artifacts. Let's just take a look. Here are some artifacts found at the site, some projectile points, K right there. That is an ornamental bead made out of a conch shell. The rest of this is copper, copper ring beads, copper tubular beads they are called. Little tubes of copper, ornamental copper there. This right here, this is a leather satchel, little pouch filled with 3 copper chunks right there. That is pretty cool. Where'd they get the copper from? Well, Great Lakes, Lake Superior. Right here in this pic, we have a skull with beads impressed, indented right into the skull there. E, that is a jasper drill. That is what that is called. Some more copper beads, some boat stones up here. Here are some diagrams of the burials. A lot of these were done in much different ways. Some of these had artifacts, some of these did not. Some were kind of cremated, some were not. Pretty interesting story here. But this one had a stone slab over the grave. Some of these had animal bones with them. Here they show where charcoal was in the bottom of these tombs. Here it says profile of burial pit number 5. No 2 charcoal masses containing human and artifactual remains. Here are some other things found. H is an elk femur found in the burial ground. F and G are just fabric fragments. E is a turtle shell fragment. I is, they say these are charred reeds, may have been smoking with them, who knows. Here is one skull that was found. It had the 4 or 5 front teeth broken out, and also the bone broken out almost all the way up to the nasal cavity. Why were they doing this? Well, they found wolf's teeth, vertebrae, projectile point in this associated burial. This is what they think the burial originally looked like. This is coming from an Adena mound in Kentucky, and I've talked about this in more than a few places, but the front of the face around the mouth was broken out, and then a spatulated wolf mandible was inserted. Now, the spiritual power of that animal and burials here. Maybe this was some sort of a shaman, but that's certainly very interesting. And remember, the name Adena is just some person that was named that in Ohio, whose land mounds were found on. The name Adena has nothing to do with the original name of this culture. We have no idea what it was, and that's kind of sad. Copper was found in the skulls of some of these burials. I wonder if they were doing that here. Here are some more artifacts. Boatstones. Can anybody give me an answer what the practical purpose of these was? Was there a practical purpose and a symbolic purpose to these boatstones? That's what I ask. Some more copper items, and here is a mass of human bones that was found on a bed of red ochre and it cremated, all jumbled together. And here is an x-ray of that jumbled mass right there. This article was written in 1976, and he summed it up this way: the purpose of this presentation is to create a greater awareness of Adena and or Middlesex-related sites in the East and Northeast. And Middlesex is what this culture here in New Jersey is called once in a while. There are similarities to the Adena, but then there are a few subtle differences. It says, we are aware of the many problems of identification and interpretation. We realize that much more information and study is needed before we can understand the people and the phenomena represented by their sites. There can be no denying that the common thread that runs through all these mortuary complexes from Ohio and West Virginia to the Delaware Peninsula and north through New York State into Vermont and New Brunswick. Even more tantalizing is trade or culture contact relationship that is attested to by the metal artifacts from Lake Superior copper, the shell from the Carolinas south to the Gulf of Mexico, and the lithic materials from Labrador, Montana, Arkansas, Ohio, and elsewhere. These are our most colorful people who have left us with far more problems than answers. Following are a few of the problems and observations that have impressed me concerning the Rosenkrans Site. The location on a sandy bluff above the Delaware River is interesting, but the site itself is not particularly impressive. It could be duplicated or bettered at a number of spots up and down the river. One wonders why this site was chosen for the cemetery. One of the people working here noted the obvious: there wasn't any mounds here, so why was this place chosen? They really had no idea back 70, 80 years ago why this place was chosen as a burial site, but they did note the natural ridge line that ran all the way up into the site here. Let's take a look at that. Here's that natural ridge line that leads to the site here. It's pretty straight, and it's pointing in a general direction. Let's look where this ridge line points out to on a special day. Here's the site right down here at the end of this natural ridge line. Let's take a look at December 21st, the day that the sun dies, the winter solstice here. Where does the sun set on this special day? Oh, it sets right in line with that ridge line. I've talked about that out in Wyoming at the Medicine Wheel site. Of course, we have talked about that at Serpent Mound, a few other sites. But this natural ridge line points at the sunset on December 21st. I've also talked about that at a few sites in Egypt. These people were looking at the sun, relating their stories on Earth to the path of the sun. That is archaeoastronomy at its finest right there. Serpent Mound is aligned to the sunset on the summer solstice, the day of enlightenment, the day of the most light. Here, the burial ground. Why is it here? Well, this place represents the day of death or dying, the day the sun dies. That's why the burial ground is right there. That is the Rosenkrans Site coming from New Jersey here on the Delaware River. Not done one from New Jersey. Glad to do this one. That was pretty interesting. Interesting finds, documentation of the finds. That was pretty interesting. Closely related to the Adena people of this area. But were they exactly the same? Well, we got culture spread out all over the United States, so that's hard to determine. But I hope you thought that was interesting. You all have a very nice day.